St. Cloud. And
How about
Bolton brought your ass up there in St. Cloud, and we wished we hadn't.
Remember we were playing down in,
I did fall off the stage.
was it Mankato? No, you jumped off. I just said that. You jumped off. You're supposed to jump off spontaneously, but you ran out and said, okay, look out, we're playing. Look out, everybody, I'm going to...
Oh, because I'm going to kill somebody.
Well, yeah,
they were all sitting right up on us.
They had all those couches.
All the couches, they're sitting right up on us.
Remember in Mankato, we were playing at one of them clubs, but it was like a wedding party.
Yeah.
We were doing a slow blues and playing a solo, and I bent this note over. And I leaned against the wall, and I just went right down.
You went down.
Yeah. And I was on the floor. I don't know why I remember this. I couldn't fucking get back up, and I just had that note just sustaining, next to the amp.
You remember at the joint? We're up there, and we're playing,
when I jumped,
and I hear this funny
off.
sound. I look around, and you're not there.
How could I forget that?
And I look over, and here you were hanging on the pipe, like, help me.
Yeah, the joint had a balcony,
Help me.
Yeah.
But the floor of the balcony ended.
It ended. No railing, no nothing.
Where there was the kitchen down
Fall
there.
right into the kitchen.
And I'm standing next to it, and I stepped right over.
Yeah.
But they had a thing, they had
caught
to
himself
across
on
the
the
fence,
pipes.
so I caught myself on the pipes, and I had one foot up on
And
the
he's like,
and who was the only guy that could reach me because it was so crowded? John Beach.
yeah.
The wimpiest guy in the band, So we were laughing. He's trying to pull me up. He couldn't pull me up.
All right, y'all.
Seymour's. All right, Willie. Let's start with the Dave Brady and the Stars. You were in that band, right?
Mm-hmm.
What year would that have been?
That was the singing group, and they had some little rinky-dink musicians, and then they wanted to kind of upgrade, so they got Billy Lorden, I think, as a drummer, and then he got me in there as a bass player because we played a lot together.
Yeah.
I forget who. Oh, Russell Hagen, who was another friend of mine, played guitar. That would have been about, I think I was 63.
63.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted a couple, 3-4 years, I think.
With you in it, or did they keep going?
Me in it.
Okay.
I think they kept going after I quit, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
I had some good friends in there. Jimmy Lawrence was in there. He was a schoolmate of mine, and it was the Central High bunch.
Yeah.
I'd gone to Central.
So what year did you graduate from Central?
62.
62. And you were playing music in high school already? You were playing in bands?
I
or-
started playing out in clubs in probably my last year.
Okay.
We had a band called the Versatiles, played at Maddie's Barbecue.
The Versatiles?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was Billy Lorden, and he was too young. I was too, but he was way too young because he was a couple of years older.
Uh-huh.
And then, so some of the guys in the Versatiles I ended up playing in different bands, but Booker Arredondo, who became known later as the King of the Strip, Big Time Pimp.
Uh-huh.
But he was in that group, and then he ended up in the Valdons when I was in the Valdons.
Okay.
And I think that was, wait a minute, so I might have that date wrong, because I think the Valdons was before Dave Brady and the Stars.
Oh, really? Okay. And that was like an earlier version of the Valdons then?
That was the version.
The version of the Valdons.
Joe DiBiase from New York and Timothy Eason were the two main singers. They were really good. And then Booker came in, and he was supposed to be singing bass, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he was replaced by a guy named, I can't think of his name. I see him all the time. He hangs out at Palmer's Bar now.
He's still at Palmer's?
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but I will in a minute.
Yeah.
And then Joe DiBiase, after a couple of years, went back to New York. He had a family there.
Uh-huh.
And then Willie Walker came in and replaced him.
In the Valdons?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He didn't last too long because his wife and him were quite religious, and these guys were all pimp, dope, smoking guys, It was a great group, a lot of really acrobatic choreography and stuff,
Really?
Yeah. A lot of jumping over the drums from the back to land at the mic and flip and all that.
Wow.
All that kind of stuff. Timothy and Joe were really good at that.
Uh-huh. And then so you think the Valdons was before Dave Brady? What year would the Valdons been when you
I
started?
think actually it was the Baldon. That was probably 60, maybe 2 even. Right after I got out of school. And then it was the Nobles, which was what used to be the Big M's. I played with them for a couple of years. Then Dave Brady. So maybe Dave Brady was about 65, I think.
Okay.
And then
Mid-60s. And you did that for a couple of years?
yeah, maybe that was 64 or something. But anyway, I did that for a couple of years, and then I don't know. I do remember actually, but I won't tell you this. I got hooked up with Spider John Kerner.
Okay, sure.
And that's when we did that folk thing for years.
Yeah. So that's when you got more away from the soul stuff?
Yeah, we did the folk circuit all over the country.
Yeah.
We made a record with Electra, which was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
It was a highly critically acclaimed, but I don't think it ever sold that many.
Yeah.
20, 30,000. But I still have people come up to me with it trying to ask me to sign it and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Is that running, jumping, standing still?
Yeah. So that we toured the whole country through the prime of the 60s.
Yeah.
From 66 to 71 or something.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about that. There's kind of like there's a really cool mixture from that era of the West. I think a lot of it stems from the West Bank as sort of this, I don't know, I call it like a petri dish of like musicians that you might have had the soul and R&B bands, but then also the folk scene seemed to mix really well. And you kind of...
I do remember
Maybe
playing at a place called Bimbo's,
Mm-hmm.
which was up where Theater and Around is now.
Oh, sure.
And playing with Dave Brady and the Stars, and I remember Kerner coming to hear me. So him and I had started our partnership when I was still playing with them.
Mm-hmm.
He had never heard anything like that.
Really?
Yeah. I was playing bass. He said, "Oh man, you're so powerful up there." I says, "Yeah, because I'm the bass player."
Yeah.
But so the West Bank was kind of spread over from the East Bank for the folksy scene.
Yeah.
From the Scholar, but right away there was kind of a, if you will, blues element there too. And I was playing. I think when I started playing with Kerner is when I really started playing on the West Bank. We maybe even before we started touring on it, but we toured a lot. But in between tours, we'd play at the Triangle Bar.
Where's the Triangle?
Never together.
They'd
have two acts, and you'd stagger. So one guy would drink while the other guy played. They'd have a couple of times they had special things, and me and Kerner would play our stuff together. But mostly that was for the road, the big shows,
Well, I think that's interesting because, what you hear from a lot of these guys is there's sort of like a very institutionalized segregation kind of. It wasn't so much like segregation, but it was kind of unofficial. And I think a lot of you guys kind of managed to...
Well, when I started the Bees, Willie and the Bees, see, when me and Kerner broke up, Elektra Records picked up the option for our next record. Kerner decided he didn't want to do music at all. He had married a girl from Denmark. She moved here. She hated it. She was from Copenhagen, So he quit playing, and also he thought he wanted to make films, so we were all big film buffs.
Yeah.
All the new wave stuff and everything, but and we made a film right then, right after we quit. This was 1971, The Secret of Sleep. We went out to California and made that. But I had wanted to start a big R&B band. I was a little tired of that folk thing.
Yeah.
But it was great. We did shows with everybody from Jefferson Airplane to James Taylor to, I don't know. But then I got the big offer from Jack Holzman at Elektra, which had just merged with Warner Brothers and Atlantic. They called it, to be a house producer. But I just started Willie and the Bees, and it was so much fun I turned the offer down.
Oh wow.
Something I've thought about many times.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have any regrets, so really.
Right.
How can you? But the Bees, see, at this time it was a big deal, unlike now, to play original music. The 60s brought that in.
Mm.
So we were playing a lot of originals, and we were a mixed band. I always had a mixed band. I always did, because I grew up playing as the one white guy in a black band. And
Yeah.
it was what I was used to. Plus, it was my orientation was black music, and I always felt it was more righteous, you know, sort of.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were one of the first bands to play a lot of places mixed with black people, including downtown.
Yeah.
Which is, even now, I don't think there's much of that. I don't know what goes on. It's mostly discos, right?
Yeah.
But that's all, of course. 60s was an attempt at a revolution.
Yeah.
And we've been living in the counter-revolution ever since. But the West Bank was it became a big bohemian neighborhood, you know. Before that, it was over by the art school, really. That was my milieu. I mean, we started dropping acid there in '63, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't even a West Bank scene yet.
Really?
But the kind of the East Bank folk scene bled over into the West Bank. There was the Mixer's Bar, and then the Triangle opened, and that was just a hot. I mean, when we in Kerner were touring the country, people everywhere we went had heard of the Triangle.
Really?
It was legendary.
It's kind of had a story in itself.
Yeah. And then, well, I remember specifically all the young hippie kids drank at the Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be so crowded. Me and Kerner, when we'd go on the break and the other guy would play, we'd go across to the Viking. Well, the Viking was still 6 old Scandinavians every night, nothing else.
Yeah.
And I'm serious.
Yeah.
This really happened this way.
Yeah.
I'd go over there when he was playing, he'd go over there. Next thing, a few more of the people from the Triangle went over to the Viking. Pretty soon, the Viking was a hopping youth bar, too. Then me and Kerner, I swear to God this is true, we did it. We started going down to the 400, because it was the same 6 Scandinavians, you know.
Yeah.
Pretty soon that blew up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Palmer's, and the one bar that resisted that until it ended was the Five Corners Bar.
Oh, okay.
That was the last outpost of the old Snooze Boulevard people.
Huh.
It was quite a tough lot.
Yeah.
And they still had accordion music there every Sunday and everything, you know. But the West Bank became quite a music scene.
Yeah.
It turned into a big hippie neighborhood, and there was a lot of musicians, a lot of free playing in the park without your clothes on and everything, you know. So it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds pretty cool. And of course, you know, it's kind of maybe what was going on around the country quite a bit as well.
Yeah, sure was, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about Honey from the Bee.
Me and Kerner incidentally were in San Francisco in '67, the summer of love, you know. That was kind of interesting.
You were in San Francisco. Who did you play with there?
Each other.
Just I know, but the other acts on the bill or anything or?
Taj Mahal was one of them.
Oh,
And
cool.
he was playing solo in this little club where we played.
Yeah.
In Sausalito, I think it was. Or maybe Berkeley. Anyway, the Bees, when Kerner said, I don't feel like making the next record, I didn't give a shit one way or the other. That's how I always was, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought, oh good, I'm going to start the big R&B band I want to start.
Yeah.
So I started the Bees. And we had, it was me and Boyle, the trumpet player, and Gino, the sax player, and Russ Hagen was the guitar player. He's not in that picture. And then we had trouble finding a drummer for quite a while. We had 2 or 3 good drummers. One of them was Jerry Cole, who was one of the better drummers in town. But I think he has wife didn't like him playing with a bunch of hippies or something.
And was Willie Walker in the band too?
He was in it for a while. After we'd been gone about a year, I'd say, I ran into Willie, and I'd always thought it'd be nice to have another I was doing most of the lead singing. Everybody sang some, you know,
Yeah.
the other guys, but it'd be nice to sing. So I asked Willie to be it, and he did. But the same thing happened as with the Valdons. His wife didn't like him hanging around with all of his dissolute, crazy guys.
Yeah.
And I think it was a little foreign to him even.
Yeah.
We were really...
He was out of his element.
I was a real little hippie, man.
Uh-huh.
I had earrings and piercings and tattoos, and we were all dropping acid all the time and all that.
Yeah, a lot of drinking.
But there were some really couple good recordings made with Willie singing. I think it was one of the shows at the Cedar Theater.
Really?
Which wasn't the Cedar Cultural Center then, but...
Right. Same
they
building.
had, yeah, I think you could do big shows. And we rehearsed right next door in the defunct music bar.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had a big arrangement I did of Love is but a song we sing, fear the way we die. Remember that song?
Who does that one?
Yeah, I forget their name.
I'd have to hear it.
Come on, people, let's smile on
Oh,
brother.
sure, yeah.
Everybody get together now. Anyway, I got Willie to sing that, and I did this really elaborate, dramatic horn arrangement and everything. I think I have that on a little tape.
Oh, wow. That'd be cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a great big jazzy horn section in the middle and everything. I used to do a lot of that, you know.
Yeah. So you kind of were going after kind of more the, I don't know what you'd call it, like a show review, like different singers.
It was about the music mostly, but I always did a synthesis of jazz and R&B. Not to say fusion though, you know what I'm saying?
Right. But I mean, you were kind of going after more variety. I don't want to call it a variety show, but you know, most bands, they have one style.
Well, we did a lot of original. No, but that was done in our style.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
My style always was fairly wide ranging, though, in a sense. But in the Bees, it was always about horns and jazzy. You know, I was very inspired by Mingus and people like that. I wrote some things that were way out there that we played quite a lot. We never recorded them.
Uh-huh.
Actually, we did record a couple, but they didn't get on the records.
Okay.
We thought they were maybe a little too esoteric.
So like kind of straight, like free jazz kind of stuff? Or?
No, just really kind of Ellingtonish type of harmony with the horns. You know?
Wow.
Really nice dissonant chords and stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
I was way into that, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
Gil Evans all the time. Oliver Nelson.
Yeah.
Especially Mingus, though, I think.
So, you know, Maurice told us some of the story about the record. You were, you know, and it's kind of got a history in itself. It was recorded at Dave Ray's cabin or studio up north?
He had a studio, a big studio. It was a nice... when I was recording with Kerner for Elektra in California, he came out there to record with his band, Bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
They recorded right after us, in fact. I mean, that's a whole story in itself. Because the guy running this thing was extremely extravagant and spent the budget for the first 5 years and the first 6 months. And that's when we were there.
Mm-hmm.
But then Jack Holzman, the president, came up there to check out the operation. And we had just finished our record, me and Kurt, and he listened to it. And this guy, Fraser Mohawk, his name was, he had been called Barry Friedman before that. He discovered Steve Stills and all kinds of people.
Right.
Probably Jackson Brown, I think. Anyway, this guy pulled out all the stops to impress Holzman with the money guy.
Mm-hmm.
He might have known he was going to get fired,
Uh-huh.
but Holzman was impressed the wrong way. But he loved our record. He he even says now it's one of his favorite records.
This one?
Yeah.
From the Bee? Or? Yeah.
No, the me and Kerner's record.
Oh, right.
So anyway, the story, so Dave was there waiting for us to finish recording, and we did, but then Holzman had been there in between and pulled the budget. So we had been living like kings.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave and those guys had to eat brown rice. It wasn't a big bowl of dope in front of the fireplace. But that's where Dave got the idea talking to a couple of the engineers up there of starting his own studio.
Yeah.
And he went back and he got up some money and bought some equipment, but he didn't have a studio yet. Then I got a call from Bonnie Raitt, who I'd known from Boston, because me and Kerner played a lot in around Boston, the Club 47, and to produce the record for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked her into coming out here and recording it with Dave Ray, which wasn't easy because the label didn't want to do it, but she had a lot of latitude in her contract.
Right.
Because her father was famous. And
Yeah.
she had a hot lawyer. And so me and Bonnie got up every day looking for a place to put Dave's equipment to have a studio. And we found one, and Dave made enough money off of that project. It was recorded on a 4-track, the Bonnie Raitt album, to put up a big, really nice building up in the woods and start the studio up at this land that is, I think it was his aunt or somebody had. And she put up some additional money. Her name was Jane Wesley, hence the label was called Sweet Jane.
Mm-hmm.
And I was early committed to making a record with him up there, but I waited for about 4 years for him to get his shit together. I could have recorded with big labels and everything in the meantime, but we finally did this one. I think he'd done 2 or 3 things by then. But I wished he had more than 4 tracks to record on.
Right.
And he had chances to, but he was stubborn. You know, people wanted to help him and invest, and let's get a 8-track was the gear. And then I think before he ended, 16-track had come in. But he never would do it. But anyway, we finally got up there and made this record, and it's a pretty good record, I think. You know?
Oh yeah.
And that's the band. I had Russell Hagen that quit. Got married to somebody who moved to Florida or something, and then this is Jerome Broughton, played bass and guitar. We switched, me and him. And John Beach playing keyboards, and Howard Merriweather. We finally found a really good drummer in Howard and a great singer too. So it was, and in the meantime I had run into Maurice somewhere. That was early in the band. He came in pretty early, but we played a few gigs before he was in.
Yeah.
And they told me he would stand in the corner and play the flute, like Lake and Nicollet.
Yeah.
And,
busking?
Yeah,
Or?
I kind of knew him from high school. I don't know if it was the
Or
hippie
just do
era.
it.
He was kind of a hippie, kinda.
Yeah.
He once said, I'm a hippie first and a black man second, an American third or something.
Yeah, I like that.
But in my milieu, if you call us hippies, we'd say "fuck you."
Yeah.
That's a fucking media term,
Right.
Anyway, so that was the first album, but we've been playing for a few years.
Yeah.
All the songs on the album, except, there might have been one new one or 2 or something. I think almost all of them were stuff we were playing all the time, And I wrote most of them, and John Beach wrote a couple of them, usually with me. After My Heart On It's Gone is one of the really good ones.
78 is the year.
Do what?
This was, when did you record it then? In 78 or
I
77?
think we recorded in 76.
Oh, okay. So it took a couple years to come out?
I don't know. I thought it came out in 77, but I don't know. But I think it was 76. And Dave says, I don't know what happened up there, but Steve Raitt was his partner. When we did Bonnie's record, Steve came, and we didn't know him, but he ended up never leaving here. And he became Dave's partner in the studio, and he was there when we did that. I remember him. He really loved the tune Dipstick. And I can remember him coming out and saying, "Oh, now play it like so and so." And I always just played this. I could only play it the way I played it.
Yeah.
But I think he was pretty good. He loved funky music. Dave was a folkie.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really a musician, nor was Steve. But Steve kind of had a broader sense about what we were doing.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Me and Dave would sit out and drink out in this little shack he had way out in the field, and then show him guitar stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I show him R&B. He wanted to learn that stuff.
Wow.
But he was like folky, bluesy.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of stuck with that.
But the studio was really good. I think everybody worked too hard and didn't get enough money, but there was a lot of partying and stuff too.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Him and his wife, and then he had 2 kids, and then Steve and his wife, and they had a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then people would come and visit and then end up staying.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a bunch of people there at various times.
Yeah, it kind of comes across.
I did a lot there. I made a record with Rio Nito. Do you remember that band?
Ooh, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
It was Tim Sparks and Prudence Johnson. And,
Huh.
what's the other guitar? Tom Lieberman's the other guitar.
Oh.
Real good player.
Same studio then?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I played upright bass, which I couldn't play.
Yeah.
I acquired one and I was trying to learn, and Tim convinced me to do it. Just about killed me.
Yeah.
We went up there the first day. We recorded for like 6 hours.
Right.
I tried to lay down and sleep that night. And I was so tense up here. I couldn't. I didn't sleep awake. Then we had to get up and do it again the next day.
Yeah.
Then my bass got stolen.
Oh, Jesus.
So I never played upright again.
It wasn't meant to be.
It was like fun. It sounds okay. My lines are good. I just didn't have the.
Yeah, the dexterity.
Muscles.
You're no Charles Mingus.
I didn't have the muscles yet.
Yeah.
I have to develop that.
You gotta have those ham fists.
You
Like
develop that when you play.
Yeah.
Same with anything.
Yeah.
But Dave made some other good records. He did. Then we did, actually, the Kerner record
Mm-hmm.
with the white cover was
Oh,
done.
music is a bunch of notes or whatever, or
Yeah, I can't remember why, because Bonnie was there when we recorded it, so we had a history of doing hers already, but it might have been between when we did hers
Yeah.
and when he got his studio. Because that was done above the Extempore on the West Bank on Cedar Avenue.
extempore.
Cafe Extemp was the main coffee house on the West Bank for years, and it moved to different places.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he didn't have his studio up north yet, but it was after the Bonnie record.
Mm-hmm.
This is the album that's got a white cover, and we all had a little assembly line where we had a stamper and markers. And
Yeah, I think that's music is just a bunch of notes.
Yeah, maybe it is.
I think
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I think I have that somewhere.
And that's Willie and the Bees and John Kerner,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of the
You ever play with John anymore?
only occasionally. We played last year twice
Uh-huh.
at these songwriter things at the Dakota.
Oh, cool.
And the first time me and him and this other guy, this Gene LaFond, he's a local Dylanite, I would call him.
Yeah.
But he writes some songs, and so it was the three of us just trading songs. And the second time I said, John, if we're playing this, let's do some of the stuff from our old album. He said, sure, but he couldn't fucking.
He couldn't remember.
Well, he actually still does a couple of them, but he does them so differently from what we do. I had to learn the way he did it,
Yeah.
But it was fun,
Yeah, that's cool. I think we're good here. Anything else? Any other stories about the Honey from the Bee or anything? Anything that sticks out?
I could tell you about the
Maurice just talks about how you guys could
picture.
you could
Why
say,
Maurice is pasted into the bus.
Yeah, what was that story?
Because he wouldn't come out of the fucking house where he was watching something on TV. I think it was a fight, but he says it was the Miss America contest. And the sun was going down, and the photographer had to get a shot or two. So I'm the one that, just to get Maurice for that,
Yeah.
decided to take from some other picture we had and paste this.
Yeah. You had to put him in the back of the bus.
And the other picture had been taken, obviously, with a wide-angle lens, and he was at the far side of it because his head looks kind of warped.
I like that though. To me, it just was like, Maybe he was in jail that night. Who knows?
When we drove up to this town was called Cushing, where Dave's studio was. It was outside of the town, but you went through Little Falls, and when we drove through Little Falls that day, it was Crazy Days, D-A-Z-E, right? And we got out of the car and I was walking around, probably drunk, and there was a whole table full of cheap sunglasses, so I bought a whole bunch, and that's why everybody's wearing the shades. I gave everybody a pair to wear.
That's great.
Yeah, it was good times. This guy's gone. He's dead.
Yeah.
Everybody else is still surviving. I don't think Howard don't play much anymore, but he could really play. Beach I play with occasionally. This guy moved back to his country town. Of course, Dave's long gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it stands up. I mean, we were just listening to it the other day. It's a